First of all, I think you can't force producing. When I'm on the road and I'm finally back home at the studio, I can produce on the road, but it's always a little bit, I'm less focused. So when I get back in the studio, I like to write tunes and the best product will come out of that. Sometimes you have such a small time window and you feel like, oh, I need to produce within 10 days, I need to do this remix or do 3 new tracks or whatever, because you have little time, but it will never work. So just lose that thought. Try to get into a work environment that no one is pushing you to write certain tracks, or not even yourself. Just let it be. Sometimes you're not inspired enough, and then go out and do fun stuff, be with your family or friends, and you'll find yourself being inspired after that, because you're re-energized, your soul is how it should be again. I have been producing for over 15 years, and professionally since I got my first release, which was about 2006. So I made a long run. And during that run, I realized writing music is a passion, but sometimes I kind of lost that passion. I felt like I needed to write something like this or something like that, and it wasn't close to me, so I kind of lost the fun. That's, I think, the worst thing that could happen. I mean, to lose your passion. I write music every day if I can, and I love it. I feel so great when I finish a track. I think you should listen very closely to what you want to write, what you want to do. It's about having fun in the studio and nothing else. So money is not going to be your motivator, and it's not going to be cool to produce a track. It's just a lot of fun to produce a track, and that's going to be your biggest motivation, and that will help you to do really, really good in the studio. My way of working is actually quite chaotic, but always when I look back at it, there is certain ways I do things. While I'm producing, I have a lot of ideas going on in my head, and you want to capture those and immediately translate those ideas into actual sound, into actual music. And sometimes you see me doing stuff that might be a little bit weird, and then later on you realize, okay, that's what he was trying to do. So maybe if you're watching my course, you'd be like, huh? And then if you're watching it for 15 minutes, you'd be like, oh, he's just doing that. So I use FL Studio 20, the latest one. I know a lot of people use FL Studio, but a lot of people use something else like Logic or Ableton. I think you'll find out that it doesn't really matter what you use, as long as you're used to it or as you're comfortable with it, because each and every piece of software has its own kind of vibe, has its own kind of things to do, but it all comes down to the same thing, and it's just a tool. So if you're great at working that tool, you'll get the same result in the end. For me, FL Studio is really good at getting things done very quickly. So a fast-paced workflow is what I really like in FL Studio. Armada has been actively in my life, I would say, since 3.5 years. We always had a good relationship in terms of I did remixes for them, but like around 3 years ago, I lost the passion for music. I didn't know what to write. I didn't feel like the tunes I was writing were great to play out as a DJ. So yeah, it was really bad times. I lost my passion basically, and that's when I thought, okay, let's reset, get back into the studio. After maybe a break for 2 months or so, I got back into the studio and I stopped caring about everyone and started to make fun again in the studio, and I just wrote whatever came up into my mind, and I was having fun. And after a few weeks I had, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 tracks done, and I wasn't even thinking about sending them out. up until the moment I was like, at one point I was like, okay, these tracks are fun, I'm having fun in the studio, why shouldn't I just try it again and then send it out to labels? And I sent it out to Armada, and they were super positive. And I was like, hey, okay, this works, having fun in the studio, and people will notice your tracks. They will notice your talent, they will notice basically the fun you had in the studio. When I started out producing, which was maybe like when I was 11, 12, I started out with very easy software and then progressed a little bit to more complicated stuff. And back then, I'm not sure we had YouTube or anything like that, but we did have community boards. So I went on those community boards to search for things, to see how I can teach myself the piece of software that I was using. That was one of the most cool things I'd done at such a young age, because you were teaching yourself a passion. And I think nowadays it's quite easy to go on YouTube and to check those little tricks you can incorporate. And with FaderPro and the Armada University, you can have like the best source you can get. It's basically all combined into one video. So you have the tips and tricks from pros, and it is real, you can actually see them. So yeah, I wish I had that when I was younger. I think it's very helpful and very motivating to see someone work and get to something cool, or struggling with the same problems you have, and then finding a solution for it that you find very helpful. I think this FaderPro course will allow people to get a real insight of me behind the computer, like a real intimate. Basically, you're stepping inside my studio, invisible, and just walk around and see me build a track. So what will happen is I will make a lot of mistakes. Maybe I'll swear a little bit, and I'll progress along the way. So you see me making mistakes, and that will make, because sometimes when I just got into producing, I was like, okay, these people can do anything and they're so good at it, but we might be able to do a lot of things, but it's always gonna be trial and error. So you see me doing some weird stuff and then erase it and then start over, and that will help a lot of people, I think, to realize that you need those moments to learn and to get better at what you're doing. I think also it will be very helpful to see me just from the start without nothing, and then in the end I have a full track. I think that it would be very helpful to see how I attack different problems along the way.